Welcome back to another ConverSATtions. I am Candie Zenon, author and life coach and CEO founder of Changing Seasons Life Coaching, where I help single moms strengthen their faith, family, and finances through one-on-one coaching, books, mentorships, and live events. And we are here today with our guest, Ms. Star Waters. Welcome, Ms. Star.
Thank you, Candy. I'm so happy to be here.
I am so happy and I can't wait to hear your story. I'm so happy that you are here with us. And I want you to listen to these announcements and come on back so you can hear Miss Star Waters' story. It will blow your mind. Welcome back once again to another conversation. Thank you again for sharing your evening with us. Miss Star Waters, you and I met over Facebook. I seen your name listed on a poster, a flyer of an event that you were advertising or you're part of. I don't know, was it the title or was it the synopsis written up about what you do? I don't know what it was that caught my attention, but I had to track you down and find out who is this superstar. So I so you tell me who's Miss Star Waters.
Well, let me kind of do a dot in between what you last said and me beginning, because when you reached out to my one of my co-partners in the event that's coming up, which is actually a holistic wellness webinar
Okay.
uh, done by four sister experts in their fields of study to help other sisters to overcome any health problems, illnesses, obesity, high blood pressure, all that kind of stuff, to break it down, you know, get them to overcome, heal from the pre-existing health conditions that's on our back. It's like a target on our back. But when I heard that you were trying to find me, I was like, me? Oh, okay. Well, I just need to know, why is she trying to find me with all these other wonderful sisters? She picked me. So thank you very much.
Thank you for being willing to talk to a complete stranger off of Facebook and share your story. So you share with me that you went from a size 24 headed to a 26 to now a size 8. And you have taken this journey from that particular size with all of the emotions that entailed and everything that made up that weight to the person extraordinaire that you are now. Can you take us through that journey?
Sure. Starting off with some of the things that you spoke to me about that I just so clearly and so freely downloaded to you. I was thinking to myself, wow, she probably shouldn't have asked that question, because the sister don't know how to stop talking. I mean, I didn't went real deep all the way back to my childhood.
Mhm.
But seriously, that's where a lot of people's issues begin, is in childhood. And so much of the time, we don't realize it. We don't realize that the things that happen to us are so differently significant that they would even make a difference. All we know is that it happened to us. This is our life. We don't know any other way that there is. And so we really don't have anything to compare it with.
That's true.
But one of the things that I touched on in our conversation was that loneliness had a lot to do with the things that I experienced growing up as a teenager, and then later on as a young adult, and then all the way into a full grown adult. Uh, I'm an only child, and I spent a great deal of my time alone. I know that when I started having children, or just before I started having children, the terminology latchkey kid was
Mhm.
used back, those children that had a key around their neck, and were able to let themselves in the door, in the home for just a few hours until mom and dad, or mom, single parent mom, would get home. And so I spent a lot of time by myself. Um, my mother was the type of mother that raised her child through, through example, through just general conversation. I knew at age 6 that I would not be dating until I got to 16. There was no sense in even asking, because she had already programmed that into my mind. So she would tell me what it was I needed to do, and I did it. And food was a big thing. I couldn't wait till I got home and have me a little snack before dinner. And then later on in my teenage years, when she worked at nighttime, as I mentioned to you, Friday night wrestling was my time. I would make a big thing of French fries that would be like a huge bowl, like a mixing bowl or a serving bowl. I'd have my ketchup with the hot sauce mixed in it, and me and Friday night wrestling, it was on. And the food kept me company.
Mhm.
But little did, I mean, I knew nothing about food. Who did back in those days? Basically, it was just something that you ate that tasted good. And little did I know of a thing called food addiction. And probably not many people even today know about food addiction. They think it's an oxymoron. How can you be addicted to something that keeps you alive? And maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later, how that works.
Mhm.
But it wasn't until I got in my mind that I don't treat food like everybody else does. I don't know when to stop. And then about maybe 5, 6 years ago, it hit me. It's like I am a machine or a washer or something like that. I don't have an automatic cutoff valve like most people do.
Mhm.
Um, I want to have that experience of the taste of the food still on my tongue. And so once I chew the food up and it's gone, I'm looking, it's gone, and sometimes I don't even remember eating it. So that's when I started bringing in mindfulness when it came to eating my food. I am no longer distracted. I don't really watch TV. I don't want to be talking to someone. I want to experience every morsel of the food and know that I am eating it, ingesting it, and I become fuller faster. And now I've repaired my automatic shutoff valve. But that's taken, God, decades for
Mhm.
me to come up with.
When you came to the conclusion that you didn't have the shut off valve, were you at 286 pounds?
I was probably more like about 220 pounds
Okay.
when that came to me, because I kept trying to understand why I didn't get full
Mhm.
like other people did. My portions were always larger
Mhm.
than other people's portions, and on top of that, I always had seconds. That I realized is that, especially, I had small children, and so at the dinner table, I was the mom, so I was the one to get up to get this, or get up and get that, or whatever. So my meal that I was eating with the family was so disjointed
Mhm.
that I really didn't remember eating it. Um, And I didn't really enjoy my food until everybody left the table. And that's when I would treat myself with another helping so that I could be mindful while eating that meal.
When you said that you would treat yourself, I knew instinctively that you was about to say that meant a second helping of
Yes,
food. And now, although you didn't get to enjoy that first helping, it was still ingested. So
it was
now
just,
you're putting calories on top of calories. So at 220 pounds, you know that there's a problem. You have identified that you don't have the cutoff, the shut off mechanism like everybody else have. But you still went up to gain the 286 pounds. So at this time, are you looking for the solution? You're aware of the problem, but are you looking to um, something outside of yourself to help you, or are you still trying to look intrinsically to see why you do not have the cutoff like everybody else have?
well, actually, it was from 286 down to 220.
Okay.
I I had lost about maybe 60 pounds or so, or 40, however, whatever the difference is. But it was all in the journey of dieting,
What type of diet?
every type, all types, any
Okay.
type that, I mean, anything that I could think of to
Okay.
break. And I didn't even know. I don't even think I was that deep to break the connection. I just knew that my weight had spiraled out of control,
Hmm.
and I was getting larger and larger. And I've always been a very proud person of myself. Before I got to that weight, I always dressed very nicely. I have a very keen sense of fashion, and I knew what kind of style I wanted to rock.
Hmm.
And uh, I had my son laughing last night. I was telling him the only thing that I could wear were Hagar's tints. They used they came in
Hmm.
all kind of fantastical patterns and ugly designs, and and it was just embarrassing. That was not my style. and so
Hmm.
I really just wanted to get down so that I could maybe one day have other women admire me and how I showed up, instead of me always admiring other people's styles.
So, in addition to the diets, what were the tools that you implemented in this weightless journey?
The first thing that occurred, that happened to me, was that I was fortunate enough to, at this time, I lived in Portland, Oregon, and I was fortunate enough to be involved in a weight loss study for African American women that Kaiser Permanente had written a grant for. And the preface for this grant was, why is it African American women can go to these diet companies like Jenny Craig and all these other diet companies that are long gone now, where they would eat that food and they would be very successful in losing weight. But as soon as they got to their goal weight or their target weight and they went back to eating their own food, the weight would come back. And on top of that, they would gain even more weight.
Now, that
So,
question, not to cut you off, but I need to jump in there because that question, um, I brought up that myself, and I came to the conclusion. I'm gonna ask you what was Kaiser's conclusion, but I realized that heart disease and high blood pressure didn't run in my family. It was the fact that nobody in my family would run. Um, it was it was recipes that was being passed down from one generation to another. It was habits, traditions, recipes, food, culture that was being passed down. But if one person would decide, just simply decide to eat something differently, maybe vegetables not soaked in pork grease, um, that maybe some type of change would start to occur. So jump in there because I'm curious to see, did they share the conclusion of the study with you all?
The study was a year long, and they had 100 sisters, and I think the program was called Soulful Sisters. I think that was the name of it. And they had 100 sisters that was broken up into two groups. And
Mm,
one group would meet on one day and the other group would meet on another day of the week. And they had dietitians, they had people in place that did exercise. We all got memberships into a gym, and we formed a walking club. I mean, it was all encompassed. So the food and everything. So if I'm not mistaken, maybe we met twice a week. A meal was prepared for us, and they did uh, fat, you know, limiting our fat grams and our carb grams and that kind of thing.
mhm.
And the sister that did the cooking, I mean, this sister threw down, and it was really good food, which again kind of made us, we don't associate good food with food that's good for us,
Healthy. Ah, yes. Mm-hmm.
you know but the food was not only good to us, but it was good for us. And then the second uh, time that we would meet, then what we would do is we would bring our own family's recipe, and we would make a meal for our table, our group, and we would share the modified recipe with everyone. So, and then we would then put those recipes together, and that would be a meal that we could take home and then prepare for our families and share with them.
Now, that is a recipe for lifestyle change, modifying the food that you love. Because like you said, the food that's good to us can be good for us. It can taste good as well as be good for us. Everything on our plate shouldn't have to be counteracting with our dietary beliefs.
Hmm.
So I really love that. So that was the catalyst to change. Now, did they involve counselors, therapists, psychiatrists? Did they talk about any of the suke, the mind, the will, the emotions that also involves weight?
I don't remember any coaching or counseling per se. And
Hmm.
that was, oh my goodness, probably like about 30 years ago, if not
Okay.
5 years ago. So I
Hmm.
don't remember every little intricate detail of it. I just remember the big parts of us, having a walking group and going to, the gym to work out with weights and all of that, even though most of us really didn't know what we were doing, but they
Hmm.
did provide those outlets and those extra things to help us to to get the weight off. And that was the first 40 pounds
Okay.
that I released.
Hmm. Okay. And so, how did you later on connect? Because you and I began a conversation about you being the latchkey kid. So, how did you go all so many years back and connect the fact that you were trying to comfort yourself with them good home fries?
Yeah, that was my companion.
But how did you make that connection? Like, how did you look back into the halls of your memory and realize, those times that I was alone and feeling lonely, I took them four potatoes, I cut them up and sliced them up, and that comforted me. How, at what point you start taking this intrinsic look in self?
Oh, kind of like in the last maybe couple of years,
Okay.
looking back over my eating habits and my eating style.
Hmm.
uh you and I had a conversation about me as a mother at home a lot, with her children and no husband,
Hmm.
uh using the food as my companion. Food
Mhm.
has been my companion. So
Mhm.
it doesn't matter that I'm here alone,
Mhm.
not my husband. This food
Okay.
is taking my husband's place.
Okay.
So
So now, how much of that study that you brought into releasing the rest of your weight? Or what did you keep these modified recipes? Did you
yeah,
continue to exercise? Did you start adding to it?
absolutely. Yes, I continued modifying.
Hmm.
And then later on, I was able to get a job working in a community health center, health clinic, where I went out and did a community outreach to show others how to modify their foods. So
Okay.
I started off as the student, and then I then became the teacher and the instructor.
And what can you teach us today, being that some of us are alone and lonely due to COVID separating us? A lot of times we're home alone due to loss of loved ones. Or are we home alone due to the changing of the seasons? Like me, I soon be a empty nester. My baby girl is graduating from high school here shortly, and I will be in a new chapter of my life. How do you combat loneliness now, and involve meals? Because, as you know, we have the Sage page, and I've spoken to a lot of seniors who state that not oftentimes they get to have a sit down meal with other people. So teach us. We're now your students.
Well, I would say recommend that you listen very carefully to your language, to how you speak. And when you use the word lonely, then that's where you'll be. You can be alone and not be lonely. So, to replace it, I'm alone. And then that opens up a whole uh, lot of things that when you are alone, that you can do to keep yourself engaged
Such
and
as.
active. And then maybe even just come up with some ideas and list them.
Mhm.
Okay, so when I'm alone, what does that give me the opportunity and time to do that I would not want to or would not have the time to when I'm surrounded by a lot of people? Because
Okay.
you can also be lonely,
Mhm.
surrounded by a lot of people. It's a state of mind.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I would say watch your language and then start tweaking it.
Okay. I love that. I love that because our destiny follows our voice. I had to address feelings of loneliness that I didn't even know was there. Case in point, a coworker had told me when I first started graduating from high school. He said, "Oh, your babies will soon be leaving the nest too." And I was eating my food. It was on our lunch break, and when I looked up at him, tears just started rolling down my face. And
Mm,
he said, "Oh no, I didn't mean to make you cry." I said, "I didn't even know that was in there."
mm,
So now that I was aware that I had this fear of being lonely, that I needed a new plan. I needed a plan to embrace that changing of the guard, so to speak, because I didn't want to hold them back and stagnate their lives, and I didn't want to fear this next chapter. So I created a life list. I said that I wanted to learn ballroom dancing, learn to speak a new language, which was Spanish. I also wanted to learn to play the guitar and the piano. And I wanted to travel. I've only been to 17 states. I wanted to touch down on all 50 states and then start traveling abroad. So I I love what you're saying. Write down those things that you can do when there's not a whole bunch of people around. Now, what type of meals you eat now to maintain your weight loss?
Now, well, it's been a journey.
Okay.
I've done a little bit of everything,
Uh-huh.
but now I am a raw food vegan.
Wow. Now
I
that's a whole conversation.
yeah, it's at this point I was like 80%, Now I'm more like 95% raw.
Okay. Okay. I love that. Now, what is the one thing that you feel that you can um, tell us to make our lives better in our weight loss journey?
First of all, I would say be kind to yourself. You are where you're at because of different changes that have come into your life. You may know what they are, you may not know what they are, but just be kind to yourself and start thinking about one little thing each maybe month or week that you can do a little differently to change your habits, because it's habits that have us where we are. It's habits.
And what would be an affirmation or word or phrase that you would have us stand on as we take this journey?
With each step of my journey, I am divinely guided.
Wow, that is so beautiful and powerful. Now, Miss Starr, where can we get more of you? Where
Woo!
can we where can we reach you? What's your social media? How do we connect with you and glean more from your wisdom?
Well, first of all, I'm going to do a shameless plug.
Okay,
I'm,
go for
I'm
it.
going to tell people to go on Sisters, and that's SISTERS, speak wellness.com/reg to get in on the holistic wellness webinar that our group will be putting on starting October 22nd. That's one day less than 2 weeks from now, where you will hear a lot of me and a lot of my partners as we tell you our own individual stories of how we have overcome life altering diseases and imbalances. That's the first way. The second way is that you can find me on Facebook under my name, Star with one R, Waters, not Walters, Waters. Also, Granny Gone Raw. That is my Raw page. And also, Sisters Speak Healing and Wellness group on Facebook.
I thank you. And all the information that she just mentioned will be here in the description box right beneath the video. Well, Miss Waters, I'm so happy that you shared with us how to be divinely guided. I thank you for sharing your testimony, your story, your journey, and we look forward to hearing more from you and your cohorts in the upcoming webinar. And to my audience, I want to invite you to join the Weightless Journey on our Facebook page at Sage, the Season and the Singles on Facebook, while we take this weight loss journey to weigh less, not just on the scale, but to weigh less in our minds and our spirits and our emotions. Well, once again, this is Candie, Zenon, author and life coach. And hopefully, I'm helping you love through it, learn from it, live after it. Please feel free to subscribe to the YouTube page, like, and share the video. Until next Sunday, we meet then. Enjoy your weekend.